I've been asked this question quite a lot from my followers who follow my daily story. The question is, how do you constantly sustain extreme energy and output across business, fitness, and family? So I've come up with a few answers to this question. And the first part is, it's not constant energy, it's more discipline. So when I'm feeling tired, I rely on discipline, which I've built, which is a mental skill that you can develop, where you look at your emotions and how you're tired. So when you're tired, your emotions say, I'm tired, I feel like resting, I don't want to do this. And the result is usually, in most people's reality, is they will just say no to the thing because they're tired. Whereas what I've learned to do is teach my body, we're doing this anyway. We're doing this because we have to, because it's the mission, because it's fulfilling, because it's purpose. I've got reasons to go through and do it anyway. And feelings, negative ones specifically, are painful and we suffer when we go through them. That doesn't mean that I want to suffer. It just means that I want to get the job done that I started. So by seeing the feelings and the pain, but doing it anyway, I get more done. I get things done. And this is why this question's come up. Purpose and vision fuels everything for me. When I am tired, when I have low energy, when I don't feel like doing it, and my feelings want to stop, I connect back to and refocus to the purpose of my life and my vision of how I would like life to be, what I would love. And when I think about, and I'm very clear on my vision, have clarity of my purpose, and I know I'm on the right path, then that gives me that willpower and motivation, inspiration to overcome the feelings that do come up. Because feelings are in the way all the time, but I try my best to react from the higher vibration emotions and feelings rather than the lower vibration. The ego versus the genius, I call it. So if it's the ego, I don't act on that. If it's my genius and my intuition and my soul, then I'll do it. So there's always a bit of a fight for your attention, your focus, and your job is to refocus on the vision and the purpose, the thing that will give you the fulfillment, that will give you joy and happiness and true happiness. The other fact is momentum starts compounding once you start moving. And what I mean by that is, once you have momentum, the key is never to let go of it. I use this analogy of stacking a fire. So when you build fire, you need to go and get the wood, you need to go and get the logs, and you need to get the little bits of sticks and paper and things that are going to light fire. And that takes a lot of energy and effort to collect, to then stack it and make it ready to light a fire. And then you need to find the fire. You need to get the spark, the lighter, or the matches, or a hob with gas. And then you need to light the fire. And then getting the fire lit is key to the environment and things. But the idea of momentum is, you have a raging, burning fire, like on bonfire night, a big, massive raging fire that needs to be controlled, because if you don't control it, it can go wild. Think about a wildfire. Once that builds momentum, it can wipe out a whole city. So if you can find that fire and start and get the fire started, the fire will never stop. What happens though is we run into crises, or we stop ourselves by choice, and it's almost like taking the fire and just knocking the fire down, pouring water over it and putting the fire out. When you do that, you put the momentum out and you need to restack and build that fire again. So with that fire analogy, just think about momentum and movement and constant compounding as your momentum, and understand that you don't ever want that fire to get knocked down or burn out, because then you've got to restack and start again from almost the bottom. Obviously there's muscle memory, but you want to keep, if you've got momentum, keep it. Like, it's so important to keep that. It's sacred. It's something that if you lose, you're going to have to go way back down to the bottom of the staircase and walk back up again. But if you're already going and moving, things are just much easier. And this is how I managed to upkeep the output and what looks like high energy. And then there's faith, there's values, there's standards, there's morals and ethics. So with these are, I remember hearing a quote or a version of, when you've got a moral philosophy, almost that, like, if you don't follow it, someone's sort of watching and judging you on how you are acting on a day-to-day basis, and this is like being replayed back to you, or to someone's watching, like a god. And this is sort of holds me accountable, makes me think about it in a different way, that it's like, if you think about karma, if you think about a god, if you think about you reap what you sow. Put this philosophy and what I call Roman standards in place to remind me that I feel good about myself, my conscience, when I follow these standards, because when I don't follow these standards, I feel like crap. I don't feel like the best version of myself. I feel lesser. So morals and values and standards are ways, like, sort of like a structure to hold you up. Being in alignment with my wife and understanding each other's roles is critical as well. When we don't understand, like, what I'm to do and what she's to do with kids and businesses and all these things going on, we maybe step on the role of the other because we don't know, we've not defined the roles. So having the roles defined is really helpful. Like, I run the business, I grow the business, I make sales, I do the marketing, I do whatever it is. I play with the kids, I take the kids out, Gemma cooks dinner, she helps with the admin and the finance of the companies. Whatever the roles are defined, and we do our best to stick to them, and we communicate our values and communicate often. I call it over-communicate, quality communication, being vulnerable and sharing with each other, having the conversations we need to have so that we can stay in alignment and be on the same page as each other and not let resentment build. This is crucial for having a life partner, a wife or a husband that you're working with throughout your life, because it's not just business that we're doing everything together. We're doing business, we're doing, like, I do a lot of fitness, we have our kids, and health and cooking and eating and all of these different things that we do together. We understand what roles we play, and then we've defined them, and we understand, like, each other's standards and values and boundaries and things as well. And when we cross them, we need to speak about it and discuss it. And as you communicate more and more together, the more you become more aligned with each other. The next one is vices, or sacrifice of your vices, or some of your maybe pleasures that take away from you in the long term. And sacrifice, I use that word because we might think of it as sacrifice, but actually I want to see it more like vices. And then it's just about being ruthless with your focus. So who you spend time with, being careful, protecting your time and your environment, and understanding just how finite and limited our time is, and making sure that you are ruthless with that and your focus. And this allows you to reduce the output and the energy to the wrong things and put it towards the right things, the mission, the purpose, the vision. Next thing is training your body to handle pressure and tension. That's your brain and as well as your body. So for example, as you go through the pain and the process of developing a strong mindset or a strong body, what does that actually mean? It's like being able to train your body that, like, this is something we've overcome before. David Goggins calls it the cookie jar, and that's like all of these past things where you've doubted yourself or not believed in yourself, but you've done it anyway. In that moment, you overcame yourself, your fears, and you did it, and you had an achievement. And then just storing them in your cookie jar as like a storage place to remind yourself. You can write them down and then go back to them when you're feeling that doubt and remind yourself how strong a person you are. So that's training your mind, but also training your body. I did 365 days of ice baths. I've done a marathon, I've done another marathon. I've done all these different really difficult, challenging things. And again, that goes into your cookie jar, but it also goes into your nervous system that, oh yeah, we've been here, like the body knows it's done this and overcome these similar challenges before. And as you do that with enough times, you get immense confidence. Your body believes in it and its ability to overcome these things. So the experiences and stacking them up really helps. And what I've learned about myself and watching other people who are consistent is that itself, it's consistency is so much more important than motivation, because motivation sort of comes and goes, whereas consistency actually creates that fire, that like momentum that I talked about. Because consistency, when I did the 365 days of ice baths, what I realized about myself and what I realized about the results is, you know, in the time that someone maybe scatters 7 ice baths across 300, so like across a year, I've done 365. I've had like a lifetime of experience in what it might have, like if I did it inconsistently and only 7 times over the year. It's like the person who's gone to the gym 365 days in a row versus the person who's only went maybe once a week. Would that be 52 times? So if someone went 52 times to the gym versus the person that went 365 days to the gym, the person who went 365 days will be so much wiser and have so much more experience about the weights, the experience of like what works, what doesn't work. And that person becomes wiser in the same amount of time it took that person to be less wise, to only have 52 experiences while someone else is having 365 experiences. So this is how you actually advance faster. You become more of a person who has the capacity to do more, because what happens is you go through know, do, be, and eventually when you learn something, you read about something, you do something, and then you start doing something, and you do that thing enough times, it goes into your nervous system, into your body, and into your mind and belief system that you are a person that goes to the gym, for example. And that person who only did it 52 times has still not done the thing enough for it to become who they are, their identity, and in their nervous system and in their belief system. It'll take them a few years before they get that. And this is the thing, like with consistency, when you do things over and over and over, it really goes into your body and it becomes who you are. And it's sort of like a wheel that you get spinning for the rest of your life. And then you can go and spin another wheel if you do that in a consistent manner, and build that momentum for life and become it. So it's all about know, do, be, and going through that process to become something. And then once you become something, you really embodied it and instilled it in you, you can go on to the next thing. And it looks like you're superhuman, but actually it's just a process of becoming a thing that you've done enough times and going through the process slightly faster. I think the original question of like, how do you have so much energy, or how do you have so much output? I think that question really lies in a place of self-judgment and comparison to themselves and another person. So when you have that self-judgment and comparison to another person, this is the problem. And it's like comparing your chapter 3 to someone's chapter 70, who's lived a bunch of lives in their lifetime, and they've done a lot of the know, do, be process, and they are more wise and experienced than you. You can't jump to that level because it takes a lot of behavioral changes and actions and knowledge to get there. So you need to go through the process to get to that level. You may never catch up with that person if that person stays consistent. So you should never compare yourself. Comparison is the thief of joy. So don't compare yourself. Work on you, on yourself. That's why people say, don't focus on other people, focus on you. You know, you can only beat yourself today. Like, be better than you were yesterday. That's the goal. And be consistent in doing that, and you will become more energized and have more output yourself.